Oh, faithfully bringing you value as we explore the world's great books. Hello, this is Sally Book Talk. Today, we're diving into the book, The School Under the Wave, a deep reflection on disasters. It tells how, after a massive disaster, mistakes got covered up and the truth was dug out. This disaster was the earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan on March 11th, 2011, killing 18,000 people and displacing nearly 500,000. Right after, the quake and tsunami caused explosions at 3 reactors in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, and the fallout's still unmeasurable. Out of the 18,000 victims, only 351 were students, and most died outside school. Japanese schools are usually on hills or high ground, built with strong concrete, with detailed disaster plans and regular drills. So, when disasters strike, schools are often Japan's safest havens, but Okawa Elementary was an exception. During the tsunami, 84 out of 89 people at Okawa Elementary died, with just 5 surviving. What did the kids at Okawa Elementary go through, facing those massive waves? Today's book, The School Under the Wave, will dig into the truth behind this tragedy. This is a nonfiction work by Richard Lloyd Parry, a British journalist who's lived in Japan for over 20 years, and he's the Times Asia editor and Tokyo chief. After hearing about Okawa Elementary, Parry spent 6 years uncovering the truth, finding the tragedy could have been avoided. In The School Under the Wave, he recreates the tsunami scene and chronicles parents' search for answers. Published in 2018, it was named a top book by The Economist, The Guardian, and others, and was #1 on Douban's 2019 Social Science Nonfiction list. The Economist praised it, saying that when bad things happen, some societies' first move is to bury the truth. For societies like that, The School Under the Wave is a real eye-opener. Now, let's head back with the author to March 11th, 2011, when the disaster hit. Okawa Elementary is in Fuguku Village, Ishinomaki City, Miyagi Prefecture. It's a little corner in northeastern Honshu, surrounded by mountains and rice paddies, with Japan's longest and widest northern river, the Kitakami, flowing into the sea there. Okawa Elementary was small, with just 108 students, mostly kids from Fuguku and nearby villages. March 11th, 2011, was supposed to be a totally ordinary Friday. Sadako woke up early to make breakfast for her kids. She was in her 40s, with 3 teenage kids. The youngest was a girl named Chisato. That day, Chisato, in 5th grade at Okawa Elementary, woke up in a bad mood. She bickered with her siblings over little things and ended up hanging her head. Chisato boarded the school bus and left home, while her mom, Sadako, drove after breakfast to her son's middle school graduation ceremony and the party afterward. The venue was right across from Okawa Elementary. By 2 p.m., folks started to scatter, and her son wanted to head home. But Okawa Elementary dismissed at 2:30 p.m., and kids always dragged their feet for 10 minutes before leaving. Should she wait half an hour for Chisato, or let her son take the bus home like usual? Sadako hesitated a bit, but her son pushed her, so she hit the gas and drove home. At 2:46 p.m., the earthquake hit, causing chaos.
Sadako looked after her kids and parents, jumped in the car, and drove to an open spot in the rice fields.
A few minutes later, the quake stopped. Sadako got her family settled and went to the roadside to wait for Chisato's school bus. At 3:58 p.m., the radio blared news of a huge tsunami hitting Onagawa, south of Fuguku, with 6-meter waves. Many houses flooded, cars got swept away. Sadako saw a roadside ditch linked to the river first go bone dry, then in a flash it filled with water rushing in. Dark debris churned on the wild surface, and nearby fields flooded instantly.
Sadako knew things were real bad, but she didn't dare drive out recklessly to find her daughter.
She told herself Chisato's teachers had disaster training, and hey, there was a 210-meter hill right behind the school. Surely they'd be safe from the tsunami. But Chisato never came back. The tsunami wiped out Okawa Elementary, At the time, there were 78 students and 11 teachers inside. 74 students, including Chisato, and 10 teachers, all died. Oh, people didn't arrive at the school until March 13th, the third day after the tsunami hit. By then, the seawater had receded, and the school was wrapped in a pile of debris: tree trunks, beams, boat beds, bicycles, sheds, and fridges. A twisted car was sticking out from a classroom upstairs. One parent described the scene like this: "It was hell. Everything vanished, as if an atomic bomb had fallen." That comparison wasn't exaggerated. The tsunami on March 11th, 2011, struck Japan's coastline for 640 kilometers. The disaster's aftermath evoked memories of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, but with water replacing fire and mud replacing ash. The stench of mud replaced the smell of burnt wood and billowing smoke. On the walk from Fuguku Village entrance to Okawa Elementary, every house that once stood there was completely washed away, with not a trace left. On March 13th, people gradually gathered in Fuguku Village to search for their loved ones' bodies. No one spoke. They worked while crying, with men dragging the bodies out of the mud. Women took charge of arranging them, fetching water from the river to wash them, then covering the bodies with cloth found in the debris pile. By the end of the first day of digging, 10 children from Okawa Elementary were found, including Sadako's daughter Chisato, wrapped in mud, completely naked, looking very peaceful. Sadako wiped the mud off Chisato's body, trying to massage her daughter to restore her breathing. She recalled to the author, "I held her up, calling her name over and over, but she didn't answer me. I kept wiping and wiping. The towel quickly turned black, so I used my own clothes to keep wiping.
Her eyes were full of mud, and I had no towel or water, so I licked her eyes with my tongue, but I couldn't get them clean."
Daifuku Kino, a 6th grade boy, was found a week after the tsunami at the foot of the hill behind the school. Daifuku was a gentle, kind child and a core member of the school judo team. But on that Friday, when the tsunami hit, Daifuku didn't want to go to school, and his mom, Hitomi, pushed him out the door. In this tsunami, only Hitomi and her husband survived from the Kino family. Hitomi's 3 children and her in-laws all died, and their home and all their belongings were destroyed. When found, my father-in-law had car keys in his pocket. My mother-in-law held a bag of clothes, while the 2 girls had snacks and phone chargers. When the tsunami hit, they were probably about to evacuate by car, or still worried about Hitomi and Daifuku's safety. Among all disaster areas in Japan, Ishinomaki suffered the worst casualties. 1/5 of tsunami victims came from here. Fuguku Village, under Ishinomaki's jurisdiction, was the hardest hit within the city. Out of 333 villagers, 197 died in the tsunami, over half the population. Those who survived only did so because they happened to be outside the village when it happened. And a local temple priest conducted 200 funerals in just 1 month.
He told the book's author that the numbness shown by survivors was deeply concerning.
They'd lost everything suddenly, yet didn't cry or show any emotion. 'Cause that would seem selfish. The deceased students from Okawa Elementary came from 54 families, with most parents living in deep self-blame for not picking up their children from school in time. The Japanese government provided survivors with living support and financial aid, but almost no formal counseling.
Some bereaved parents could barely speak to neighbors who hadn't lost children. Many cried daily at home shrines, expressing love and apologies to their dead children.
Another mother, Uematsu Shizue, sought her daughter Kaho through a spiritual medium. Shizue was an English teacher who never believed in supernatural things before. Yet 5 months post-tsunami, while most children's bodies were found, 5 remained missing, including her 12-year-old Kaho. She told the author she spoke to Kaho, who wanted gifts for her siblings, though never revealing where she rested. Sadako developed depression after the tsunami and attempted suicide. She regretted not driving to bring Chisato home, wishing she'd died instead. She kept asking herself, "Why are you still alive?" But parents needed to know, why were casualties at Okawa Elementary so catastrophic? A month after the disaster, Ishinomaki's Board of Education finally held a briefing. Parents conducted their own investigation, combining official accounts with survivor testimonies to piece together what truly happened. And finally, on March 11th at 2:30 p.m., teachers and kids finished their class meeting and were about to head home when the quake hit at 2:46. The school building shook like crazy but didn't get seriously damaged. I won a Boston try to get that day. The principal was away, so 54-year-old Vice Principal Ishizaka Toshisai took charge. Teachers first had kids duck under desks and hold on tight. After the quake ended, they evacuated kids to the playground, lined them up, and had them wait there. This post-earthquake evacuation was super quick. A textbook example. In just 5 minutes, kids were standing neatly on the field, but how they handled the tsunami was way messier. 3 minutes after the quake started, Japan's meteorological agency warned of a 6-meter tsunami. Folks along Japan's northeast coast needed to get to higher ground, and people heard the tsunami alert on radios. Later, a minivan with loudspeakers drove past the school gates, warning everyone a monster tsunami was coming from the sea. Ha ha! After the quake, some parents came to pick up their kids. Since Okawa Elementary was Fugoku Village's official disaster shelter, villagers started showing up too. From quake to tsunami swallowing the school, they had 51 minutes to decide what to do. But folks at the school disagreed. Parents wanted kids out fast, while others suggested fleeing to the 200-meter hill behind school, including the head teacher. Endo Junji, Mr. Endo, was in his 40s and taught science. He taught at Shogawa Elementary in a fishing village, running their disaster drills. Shogawa sat on flat land, just 180 meters from the sea. Their emergency manual said to evacuate to the third-floor rooftop during tsunami alerts. But Endo felt that wasn't enough. He changed the manual to require climbing the hill behind school. During this March 11th tsunami, the school's rooftop got flooded. Shogawa Elementary's staff and students climbed the hill and all survived. But at Okawa Elementary, survivors recall the hill evacuation idea got shot down by teachers and villagers who thought staying put was safer. Oh, the village chief said the tsunami couldn't reach this far. Just evacuate to the traffic island near the school. In charge, Vice Principal Ishisaka finally followed Okawa Elementary's emergency manual, deciding to evacuate to the traffic island instead of the hill.
This decision proved deadly. The spot he chose got destroyed instantly by a 9-meter tsunami wave.
Besides Japanese trust in school safety, this fatal choice stemmed from 2 deeper issues: locals' unfamiliarity with tsunamis and weak prevention awareness.
And Okawa Elementary's disaster drills being mere formalities?
Tsunamis hit coastal areas. People think only beaches, ports, and fishing villages face this threat. Though Fugoku's just 3.6 kilometers from the coast, it's a farming village. Between village and beach lie rice fields, hills, houses, river mouths, and tall 20-meter windbreak forests. People here can't hear or see the ocean. Most in Fugoku didn't think tsunamis concerned them. Tradition-bound denial. An elder whose family lived here for 4 generations said, passed-down wisdom showed Fugoku never suffered tsunami damage. So when the minivan announced the mega tsunami, many ignored it. Some even strolled the streets. Another elder saw seawater overflow the riverbank. He fled while urging neighbors to run, but neighbors just smiled and waved, completely ignoring his pleas. Against this backdrop, it's no surprise Okawa Elementary never held tsunami drills. Before 2007, their emergency manual had 0 tsunami content. In 2007, Ishinomaki's Board of Education told principals to add tsunami protocols but gave no detailed guidance. After the meeting, Principal Momose Teriyuki had Vice Principal Ishizaka revise the manual. Ishizaka copied earthquake procedures, writing, "During tsunamis, evacuate students to off-campus locations, open spaces or parks near school." But this vague rule didn't fit rural areas. where parks don't exist, just fields and mountains. But the problem is which open space, and during an earthquake, open places like a clean beach are definitely the safest. But during a tsunami, heading to such places is like asking for death. On the day of the tsunami, Principal Mimosi happened to be on leave, attending his daughter's graduation elsewhere. Later in court, facing lawyers' questions, Momose said, "I never thought a tsunami would hit this school." And
I just thought adding those words would be enough.
Momose also said the school briefly discussed what to do if a tsunami hit, including the possibility of escaping to the hill. But Momose thought the hill's path was rugged, overgrown with bushes or bamboo, making escape difficult. They never reached a conclusion. Later, at the critical moment when the tsunami was approaching, some parents insisted on taking their kids, while others hesitated and left alone. Tetsuya, an 11-year-old boy, saw his mom come. She seemed to want to take him and his sister to higher ground, but all the adults stood still. Finally, she said she needed to go home to get something and left first. So, in the end, 78 students at Okawa Elementary stayed at school, waiting for group evacuation. At that time, there was a school bus in the parking lot that could take everyone to higher ground in 2 trips, or they could climb the hill to escape. During science classes, students walked a mountain path. Even the youngest could climb to higher ground quickly. However, Vice Principal Ishizaka chose to follow the vague words in the manual, picking an open space, a traffic island 400 meters in front of the school, near a bridge. 40 minutes after the earthquake, Tetsuya and his classmates walked in line towards the traffic island. Teacher Endo, who advocated escaping to the hill, was at the back of the line. Suddenly, he felt a strong gust and saw huge waves surging towards the children's direction. Endo immediately shouted, "Go up the hill! Go up the hill! This way!" urging the kids to run the opposite direction, and he started running towards the hill himself. The kids at the front of the line were frozen in fear by the surging waves. I answered. Some older kids ran back frantically, but in the end, all teachers and students near the traffic island perished. Some escaping kids were swallowed at the foot of the hill. Oh, Tetsuya remembered the churning black water rushing toward him. He and his friend Daifuku turned and ran desperately, but the steepest part of the mountain path lay ahead. While climbing up, Daifuku fell down, and Tetsuya couldn't pull him back up. Behind Tetsuya, the dark tsunami kept climbing too. The water quickly covered his feet, calves, hips, and back until it submerged his whole body. He got pinned between a rock and a tree, sinking into darkness. Later, another classmate, hiding in a fridge with its door open that floated nearby, rescued Tetsuya. In the end, the 2 boys, battered and bruised, climbed to the hilltop. The next day, people found 14 survivors nearby, including 4 Okawa Elementary students and teacher Endo. When found, Endo was in a dazed state, mumbling repeatedly, "I don't know what happened." This is what happened at Okawa Elementary when the tsunami hit. This was a tragedy that should never have occurred! If the school had commanded properly, if education authorities had supervised the emergency manual, these children might have lived. Yet after the disaster, the school and education authorities passively investigated while actively covering up problems. First, what outraged parents was Principal Momose Teruyuki's attitude. His absence during the tsunami wasn't his fault, but he didn't return promptly for search and rescue. A full week after the tsunami, Momose finally appeared at school, gave media interviews, and took photos with an expensive camera.
Another time he returned. He was frantically searching for the school's safe. Half a month post-disaster, Okawa Elementary borrowed another school's classroom and resumed classes as if nothing happened. What?
At the opening ceremony, Principal Momose declared, "Let's work together to rebuild a smiling school for our deceased friends." This to the 54 bereaved families. No one received ceremony notices or explanations from school or education authorities until after the tsunami. And a month later, Ishinomaki City Board of Education, Okawa's overseeing body, finally held a briefing for bereaved parents. Journalists were barred. Afterward, Ishinomaki, IDF. City Board of Education held more briefings, but investigations remained evasive and contradictory. Oh, teacher Endo, the only surviving adult, only appeared at the first briefing.
Afterward, parents surrounded him wanting to know their children's last moments, but officials immediately pulled him away, citing poor health. He vanished afterward.
Later, parents discovered Endo's testimony was riddled with contradictions and false details. For example, he described nearly drowning, losing shoes, getting injured, and dislocating a shoulder. But that same evening, witnesses saw him dry-shoed and carrying an elderly person, clearly unharmed. One witness said, 90% of Endo-sensei's words were lies, but didn't know why he lied. Worse, key details were omitted from the Board of Education's investigation materials. Survivors recalled Daifuku and another boy telling their teacher before the tsunami, "Sensei, let's go to the mountain. If we stay, we might die." The boys started running toward the hill, but were called back and silenced. Both died in the waves, yet the board's report never mentioned this. When parents pressed officials for truth, a supervisor repeatedly put a finger to his lips, signaling silence. Author saw this silencing gesture 3 times in meeting footage. 23 months post-tsunami, Ishinomaki finally formed an investigation committee. After a year, the committee concluded, delayed evacuation in wrong direction caused deaths. They acknowledged the school, board, and city were unprepared for tsunamis. Official hazard maps marked tsunami-prone areas, but Fukuoka wasn't included. No tsunami drills occurred. No officials checked preparedness, yet the report diluted personal accountability. Not one Ishinomaki employee was fired over this. The committee's report on penalties or official criticism was released in the last week of February 2014, nearly 3 years after the tsunami. Then on March 10, 2014, the day before the tsunami's 3rd anniversary, 23 bereaved families sued city and prefectural governments at Sendai District Court, accusing them of negligence and demanding about 5 million Chinese yuan compensation per child. This date was the legal filing deadline and the culmination of parents' secret planning. In Japan, holding government accountable is tough. Social pressure and lengthy legal processes create major hurdles. First, parents of deceased students were divided internally. Right after the disaster, parents united in searching for children's bodies, but as recoveries progressed, they split. Those who'd found remains pursued accountability, while others still searching feared government retaliation would hinder their efforts. Kaho's mother, Uematsu, was among those against seeking accountability. 3 months post-tsunami, over 60 children's bodies were recovered, but not Kaho's. To find Kaho, Uematsu took a week-long excavator course, got licensed, becoming one of Japan's few female excavator operators. Uematsu believed activist parents threatened her government relations. Her digging relied on city officials' sympathy, providing fuel, permits, and support to continue searching. Plus, she felt truth wouldn't help her dead child anymore. Also, both Uematsu and her husband were teachers. Accountability meant targeting colleagues and superiors, risking their careers. Second, accountability seekers face social ostracism in rural Japan.
One activist parent said people believed authorities would withhold help, like road repairs or benefits, if you spoke too much or caused controversy.
Thus, many who'd lost family, homes, and property stayed silent rather than criticize local government.
Oh, a local couple running an auto repair shop took in survivors and students after the tsunami. When they publicly criticized flaws in the education department's report, the government pressured them.
Originally, there were 11 auto shops locally. Only 2 survived the tsunami, including theirs. But in following months, government fleet repairs and officials' private car maintenance went almost entirely to their competitor. A lawyer stated, in Japan, those who sue the government feel vaguely blamed. If relatives work in local government, their lives become difficult. Their kids get pointed at in school, face vicious online comments. Plaintiffs end up feeling ostracized by society. Finally, Japanese lawsuits drag on forever, and government cases usually lose. On October 26, 2016, when parents filed their lawsuit, 2 years later, Sendai District Court ruled for parents, awarding over 90 million Chinese yuan compensation. After legal fees, each family got about 4 million renminbi, a decisive legal victory. Yet it ignored parents' core needs. No comment on the principal's actions, no accountability for the flawed emergency manual. For some, after years of grief, the money offered belated comfort. For others, putting a price on dead children remained unacceptable. A year post-tsunami, surveys showed 4 in 10 survivors had insomnia, 2 in 10 battled depression. Years later, parents told the author grief felt like filth clogging their nostrils. It's the first thing they feel waking up, the last thing when sleeping. Always there. Later, the city preserved Okawa Elementary's ruins, building a memorial park. Survivors who lost children or partners became tour guides. They tell visitors from across Japan this story, hoping Okawa's tragedy never repeats. Oh, Tetsuya, the surviving boy, went to high school and became captain of the judo team. His mom and sister died in the tsunami, but his dad made it. They've only got each other now. Tetsuya always carries a photo of his dead classmates in his bag. He says it feels like they're in class with him. Principal Momos retired early just 2 months after the tsunami. 3 months post-tsunami, teacher Endo wrote 2 letters, one to the principal, one to bereaved parents. No details, just said he had physical and mental issues and needed to be alone. He included a psychiatrist's note saying Endo couldn't discuss that day anymore. Endo vanished after that, but Sadako still hoped to see him once more. 5 years later, accountability seemed settled, but for Sadako and many parents, the truth still had missing pieces. She wished Endo could tell her. What was the sky like? How was the wind blowing? Were the kids cold? Did they want to go home? When fleeing, who was Chisato with? Was she holding someone's hand?
Even knowing won't bring Chisato back, but I need to know everything.
All right, that concludes our reading of The School Under the Wave. Reading notes are below the audio. See you next time.